guys, it's Mary with the Painted Peach, and today we are here in this playlist to get crafty with some really silly things. So our list includes Q-tips, straws, air freshener can, and foam board. And you can put them all together in one project, or you can make various projects with them. You just have to include them in your project. So without further ado, let's see what we can make with this stuff. Let's get crafty.
Today's video is a part of Just Our Imagination, hosted by Kathy Jo DIYs, Rustic and Lace DIY, and guest hosted by The Busy Housewife and Craft Away with May. So let's get started. Here are our things we have to use in our projects, and I am going to start out with the foam board. So I seen a wood project that I liked on Pinterest, and I was like, why couldn't I make that out of foam board? So I am going to get a utility knife and a ruler, and I'm going to try to make that project with the foam board and make it look like wood. So I just cut the foam board in half with a utility knife, and now I am sanding down the edges so they're not all rough and ragged. Then I am taking the part that I cut, and the excess part that I cut, and I am making some lines all the way around as if it were a frame. Once I get that all marked up, I'm going to cut it out, but then I decide I want to cut all the pieces apart instead of leaving it one whole piece. This little angle ruler, not sure what it's really called, it really came in handy for cutting my lines straight and drawing the lines out, so I do recommend using a metal ruler when you're doing this, and it will help a lot. So now I just turned it over and made sure that I cut all the way through. There were some places that didn't quite go through, and then I just popped it right out of there. I then took my little gator sander and I sanded all those edges to smooth them out, and I cut a little bit of the one part that I didn't really get straight. Now I'm grabbing my extra foam board. I bought 2 of them just in case I messed up, and I'm glad I did because I needed a whole other strip. So I'm just marking off, you can't see it because I'm off screen of course, but I'm marking off the whole bottom line of this. I won't need the whole thing, but I didn't take measurements, so I just went ahead and cut the whole strip. And this is going to be the board that goes across my others. This is where I decide I need to cut my other pieces. So I just cut them all apart, and that way I can piece it all together as if I was nailing on boards. Once I figured out all of the cuts, I then got out my antique white paint and painted the large board and then all of the strips as well. I wasn't too worried about full coverage. We want to make this look like wood pieces, so that black showing through a little bit isn't going to hurt anything. And I also wanted it to look as if there was, shadows and different things on there. So I just paint all of the pieces just on one side, and then I'm going to get out my, not antique, well, it's antiquing wax, my Waverly antiquing wax. And once these are dry, we're going to go over every board with the antique wax. I'm going to use a really bristly, rough brush to do it with so that it doesn't give an even coverage, and it kind of gives some lines to make it look like wood. I also do not want to add the wax all over the board. I want some of that white showing through. It's an antique white, so it's kind of tan, and then some of that black is still showing through as well. And I just go over each of the smaller pieces with that as well. Now just make sure everything's good and dry. When you hit these foam pieces with this dryer, make sure you don't stay in one place. it will bubble up and take your paper off. Now I'm just using some Gorilla Super Glue and hot glue. The hot glue will make your paper come off, so don't use too much of it. And I just used a tiny bit so that it would stick right away. And now I'm just piecing all of my boards on. I'm out of frame a little bit, but I'm adding small pieces on here for the other pieces of board to sit on so that they're all at the same level. And I just cut those pieces from the one that I had cut too long. I just continue using the Gorilla Glue and a little bit of hot glue to glue each of these sections on. And I think this turned out really cute, and it was super easy to do also. Now I've grabbed this wreath that I had and some of this ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I am just going to glue that straight onto the back of my foam board with some of that Gorilla Glue and hot glue. And then I'll clip off that extra and turn it around, and then I glue the ribbon on the front as well so it will stay together. And this project is complete. I think this is super adorable and very inexpensive. These foam boards were $1.25 from Dollar General. I did have to look for them for a while. Nobody had them. All right, let's go on to DIY number 2, and I used the straws, the aerosol can, and the Q-tip in this project. I start out by painting the air freshener aerosol can with some Snow White, and then I come in with some terracotta paint from Plaid, and I go over with that as well. I'm going to cover the whole can, and I also pull off that white piece that's on the top. We don't need that. And then I cover the whole silver part up there with the white paint as well. Once I get that done, I'm going to make sure it's good and dry, and then we are going to start gluing on our straws. I wanted to get straws that were red and white striped and make this look like candy canes, but I could not find them, so we are going to improvise with these plastic straws and add some paint. Do something a little bit different. So I'm just hot gluing them all the way around this aerosol freshener can, and then once we get to the end of that, we're just going to clip off the ends with some scissors. This is where my Q-tip will come in. I have cut off the tip of a Q-tip, and we're going to use that as if it is the fire for our candle. So we're making a candle out of all of these items. So then I'm just going to get out some red paint and paint the end of the Q-tip as if it was the flame. And then I go over the whole thing with some of the vintage white and the terracotta paint as well. When I started this project, I had a whole other idea in mind. I wanted to do this candy cane style, but as it went on, I decided I wanted to go a little bit more primitive. So that's the way we went with this project. Here I'm adding some of my primitive fabric that I've torn up into strips, and I'm just tying that onto the top, and I'm adding a rusty bell and making a little shoestring bow. I'm adding the same fabric down at the bottom, and I'm just gluing it all the way around with hot glue, and that will hide the areas where the straws were not even at the bottom. Now I am taking another piece of coffee stain fabric, and I made a little bow and glued that on top of the other bow. Now here I am just touching up that flame a little bit, and then I'm going to take my hot glue and I'm just going to let it run all the way around the top of the candle. I'm putting more in some spots so that it looks like it is candle wax dripping down. And then we will take some paint and paint that in to match the candle. I'm adding some Excelsior into the inside just to hide that metal part and give it a little bit more of a primitive look. And that was Sweet Annie I was showing you there. We're going to add a little sprig of that to the bow, and this little project will be complete. Here I am adding the paint to the hot glue now that it's dry. I hope that you enjoyed this project, and I used 3 items of the 4 in this one project. Here it is all finished up, displayed in my kitchen area with the other project that we did with the foam board. And there they both are. I hope that you will give it a try, and if you do, you can share it over in my sharing group, The Painted Peach and Friends, on Facebook. Today's video was a part of our Just Our Imagination collaboration playlist with Kathy Jo DIYs, Rustic and Lace DIY, and guest host The Busy Housewife and Craft Away with May. If you liked what you seen today, give me a thumbs up and think about subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell so you never miss a thing. And as always, stay peachy. See you next time.